We've got a fully virtual session coming up now. So we're going to be going live very quickly. We've got a coffee chat coming up wherein even the moderator is, the anchor also is going to be virtual. So it's an experiment of sorts. I hope it goes well. So request everybody to please settle down.
All the dignitaries, distinguished delegates, award winners, participants of this conference. We have been hearing from the experts and practitioners from industry the whole of yesterday until now on the theme rebooting quality for competitive India. And as a nation, if you have to progress, this won't be complete if this is not infused at the student stage. And definitely the academic institutions play a major role in this. So now let's understand the role of academia in rebooting quality. For this, we have the virtual coffee chat. We have Dr. Bhimraya Maitri, Director of Indian Institute of Management, Nagpur, with us. And Mr. N. Ramanathan, popularly known as Ram, our TQM Guru, to be the host for the session. To give a just brief about Dr. Maitri, he has held various positions as Dean, and he was serving as Director of IIM Trichy before coming to IIM Nagpur. And he is a recipient of Dr. P.N. Singh Memorial Award. And very recently, this IIM Nagpur campus has got the award for the state-of-art new campus at Mihan, prestigious Griha 4-star LD Award on December 10th of this year. So we have the eminent person today to share with us this. And as we all know, our senior counselor and advisor of TQM, our quality guru, Mr. Ramanathan, is a recipient of Dronacharya Award in 2018 by ISQ, and he has helped more than 12 companies to win the Deming Application Prize. Now, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rajkumar, for that introduction. And let me add my own welcome to Dr. Maitri, along with a light-hearted statement that in ISQ, when they invite you for a coffee chat, you're supposed to bring your own coffee.
Yeah. I have coffee with me, sir.
So, Dr. Maitri, it's really a great pleasure. It's a privilege and an honor for me to be able to talk to you in this prestigious ISQ conference about your views, and you are an eminent and leading management educator and researcher. And it's not often that we get to talk to the director of an IIM. So we're really looking forward to your views. May I start off by asking, that you speak something to the audience about how you got interested in quality, because in general, business schools do not have much of quality management as part of their curriculum. Please tell us a little about your personal journey on this front and where you plan to take it.
Thank you, Ram. It is just initial part of my career. When I actually joined IIT Bombay for my PhD program, that was the starting of my quality journey in the area of quality management. So when I joined there, I selected the subject for PhD was that quality benchmarking. So that was the topic I selected. So that is I assumed the seed of quality at that time. And then I also, one of the luckiest scholars, got opportunity to teach MTech reliability engineering students at IIT Bombay during my PhD tenure. And then apart from that, I also engaged organizing international conference with IETE in the area of reliability and quality management. So this is how I got involved in the area of quality management. And then that became my passion and subject. And after completion of my PhD, went to BITS Pilani. I started teaching a course, quality management, developed the course for MTech manufacturing engineering students, and BITS Pilani being a multidisciplinary since inception, people from engineering, management, pharmacy, all different variety of branches, they used to take this course. And this is how my journey started. And also later on, I did consultancy with NTPC and NTPC benchmarking. I did toll projects and many BSCS Mumbai and even Army Ordnance Corps. So many areas I went into doing the consultancy assignment. This is how my journey started.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that lovely explanation. Can you also add a little bit about where you see it going from here, your journey on this in this front?
Yeah, I think last, if you see the history of quality, I think right from quality control to quality assurance to lean management, and here onwards, I think if you see the globe, the United Nations is talking about sustainable development goals, and 17 SDGs have come. And recently COP26 has happened and Japan came out with the Society 5.0. I must say that, our the great quality guru Juran, he lived his life as a quality life, born 1904 and died in 2008, 104 year he lived a quality life. Japan came out with the Society 5.0, means Hunter Society has considered as Society 1.0, Agriculture Society 2.0. These two society cooperation was the a central principle for living. And when industry society came, the competition world came into picture. And today's topic about the competitive India, rebooting quality, the competition word coined actually in Society 5, Society 3.0. Then information society came in 1990s, mobile and internet and all. So, and lean came into picture big way by Toyota and all. So this is how quality assurance and also the speed and quality both started moving together. Earlier, speed was taken over the quality, but later on both started going. And then now Society 5.0 is basically Industry 4.0. Whatever the tools and techniques, whether it is mixed reality, virtual reality, augmented reality, AI, 3D printing, IoT, even we talk about Internet of Things has basically again explored the Internet of Ability, human ability, IOB. And from IoT and IOB, we are moving towards Internet of Behavior. It is changing the behavior of people. So it is a Society 5.0 Japanese have coined that is really going to be a human-centric society. Till today, our focus has been business, money. But now it is going from what for we are doing. It is for the purpose of people, for the, again, for the, natural resources and planet. And that is how people and planet are going to be the central principle than the stakeholder. Till today, shareholders, stakeholders in the business, even in education, stakeholders used to be industry and students used to be kept in mind. But first time now the focus has been people and planet. So we are marching towards, balancing materialistic life to now how to focus on, all living being, not only the people and competition among the people. So probably, we are marching from a competition to cooperation. So that is what the journey I can see.
Wow. So I know I should be careful asking a question to a professor because you have covered what's going to happen in the next rest of the century in a few words. Marvelous. That is a terrific account. Thank you very much. So now that I have to be more careful, let's switch the topic. Now, after this question, I'm going to let the audience ask one question, and I hope Sarika here will be able to put a question together. We'll have time for one question, good question. So Sarika, if you get a question, you put that, otherwise you put your own question to Dr. Maitri after this question, and we complete this answer. So let me go back to the topic of this ISQ conference, which is to reboot quality, which means that it needs a fresh start. Rebooting means a fresh start. So they're talking about a fresh start. So what would be the role of academia in having such a fresh start, particularly considering that the government last year the cabinet approved the new education policy, or the NEP, and I think that would have an impact in the way our business schools and institutes function, and there may be required changes. So, how would all this impact the teaching and dissemination of quality in the business schools? How would it change the curriculum? What is your opinion, Doctor?
I think it is a great question, Ram. I must say that NEP 2020, National Education Policy 2020, I must say it is a gold standard. Because when the policy was under draft and they interviewed many people, many organizations, and 217 people they interviewed, focused interview, I was one amongst them. And I was fortunate to, Kasturirangan committee talking to them. And this particular document, NEP 2020, has taken care utmost the various aspects, including quality is the heart of this NEP 2020. I must say that NEP 2020 talking about a multidisciplinary approach. It talks about holistic education. It talks about a global citizenship. It talks about a global corporate responsibility. So global citizenship means you have to study the courses from multiple perspectives. That is how multidisciplinary, because we have seen that, if you go to the dentist, he will solve the problem of teeth, but he will create a problem of eye. And if you go to the eye, then the ear problem comes. So too much specialization has spoiled the world. And we have seen that those developed countries have created 80% of the West to the entire world. A planet is in danger. 1.75% of the resources have been already consumed. So in this kind of situation, it is all because of too much of specialization, and one specialization has created a problem for many. So that is how holistic and multidisciplinary has been the core of this NEP 2020. And that is how in the curriculum, those who are studying business school, now business school students also study social science, humanity, art, and liberal art. So liberal art should dance well with the management now. Then only we can build holistic managers so that they can take care of people, planet, not only money. Of course, money is important. Money is extremely important. It is required. But apart from money, earning money, significance, also looking at the people, looking at the society and planet, and keeping resources for many generations, those things are also extremely important. And that is how NEP 2020, multiple perspective, it has been taken into account. For example, if I'm a operations management person, while teaching operations management course, if I'm talking about the cost management, then probably there are two perspectives. One is I can look at the fuel efficiency to reduce the cost. Second one, I can look at the redesigning the engine so that it can consume less fuel. So like that multiple perspective, even though same course, it can be pedagogy, we have to design such a way that people should teach from multiple perspectives so that people can see the same thing from multiple lenses, so that students can see from different lenses and hear from different ears. So that kind of NEP 2020 has come out, and the new curriculum is really going to make a magic. And probably this 2 lakh suggestions were taken before finalizing the document from the citizen of India. And this is well appreciated document, not only in India, for rest of the world. I'm sure a lot of hope from this. And now implementation also started. I am part of the various committees for implementation. Very soon we are going to see the results start coming from NEP 2020, because it is a 15-year time it is going to be implemented.
That is a really optimistic and a positive view of the NEP, and that makes us feel so happy. And you're also saying quality is at the heart of this NEP. It's a holistic system, we are not going to continue in this way of rigorous specializations only. And it's a great thing. And you're saying curriculums are changing. So give me an example of how a curriculum might change in the institute.
The example I can take from business school or management perspective, for example, let us take an example of mergers and acquisition course. So mergers and acquisition course. So today, either it may come from finance or it may come from HR or strategy, any one of the area. Suppose this course is to be taught in the business school, keeping this NEP 2020. Probably this course is taught keeping the various perspectives, multidisciplinary perspective in mind. So what is done is this course is taught by people from different functional areas. So it cut across the functionalities. The silos are broken and people coming together as a team, and they will teach a group of students. So what is going to happen is that two cultures are different for mergers, two companies, two cultures. HROB input will come. And when it comes to finance, the account and balance sheet and all those things, finance input will come. Third, strategies for the two companies are different. They are now merging. So strategy course will come. Then legal aspect of the business, both businesses, that will come into picture. Even information system, one may be having Oracle as a ERP, another may be having SAP as a ERP. So how to merge together information systems will come. So group of faculty member cut across the functions, they will be teaching the students, and multiple perspective students will get, and holistically they get the education about mergers and acquisition, right from culture to the ERP. So all the things are done. So this is the way phenomena-based learning or project-based learning is going to be again another important the aspect of our new education policy. And not only teaching, if you teach in the college course, probably what happens, students will listen and they may forget. But this time it has been kept in mind that students have to engage, involved. That is how the pedagogy is going to be entirely different. Evaluation is also going to be entirely different, because today's evaluation is a Stone Age one. It doesn't mean anything when it comes to the corporate world, because you cannot correlate. High scorers are going to make a big difference in the corporate world. So that is what we have done is a role play, a simulation games, and also students are going to do the flipped classroom. They are going to engage in thick way, and their involvement will be more. And that is how, if you look at the around 450 BC, the Chinese philosophers said, and that is very much apt for the curriculum development and also pedagogy. What he said is, tell me, I forget. Teach me, I remember. And involve me, I learn. So this concept we are kept in mind in NEP, and students are fully engaged, involved, and in case of game, suppose first set up game, two groups are there. One group may lose in 2 rounds, and afterwards they will change the strategy, and courageously they will also adopt some changes dynamically. And then remaining 8 rounds out of 10, they may win. And you can declare the evaluation, and you also use this as a pedagogy. Pedagogy and evaluation can go together. So the game-based, business games or simulation games. So this kind of pedagogy is going to come, and not only students enjoy as if they are playing in the ground, but their curiosity, tenacity, courage, all assessed in this gamification, which is not done in a traditional education, which currently we are giving.
Wow. So it's a complete overhaul of the education system, it seems, from your description, and you're obviously enjoying it. And I'm going to ask you, after we get an audience to ask a question, I'm going to ask you to answer this, but let me pose the question now itself. This is a huge change. How are you going to develop the faculty to be able to handle it? That's going to be the question. You can come back to the answer after you take an audience question.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Sarika, you have an audience question?
Yes, we do have a couple of questions.
No, just one question. Please choose one question or merge the questions and ask Dr.
Sure.
Maitri.
Sure. Dr. Maitri, the question is how IIM wants to contribute to bridge the industry and academic gap in the subject of quality especially.
Yeah, great question. I think industry academia gap. If you see in India, we have. I am also All India Board of Management Studies. I am the chairman, and I know that in India there are 3,500 business schools and university departments. 1/3 of the global business schools are in India. But if you categorize them into, I can suitably classify into three categories: top 50, whom can consider as a global schools, and remaining about 200 or so, they are reasonably good, and others I can classify them as a category 3. They need to make a lot of improvement. So when it comes to the first category, business school, 50 business school, industry academia is extremely strong in India. Whether you talk about IIMs, talk about XLRI, SP Jain, MDEI, Gurgaon, IMT Ghaziabad, XIM Bhubaneswar. These are some of the schools. Their industry academia relationship is extremely strong and good, and they are thick. When it comes to second tier institution, there the issue of industry academia will come into picture. But nowadays, because of the government policies, All India Council for Technical Education, particularly PG diploma institutions, are always ranked higher than the university departments, and there lot of autonomy is there, and lot of interactions are also there. And those institutions, because of the autonomy, they can hire the professionally qualified people as a faculty. PQ we call. Academically qualified is a proper PhD faculty as per the norms and all. The professional qualified faculty also, the PG diploma institutions appoint. Even now, I am already appointed professor of practice in business school. So they will come and teach, and some of the courses like advertise management, sales and distribution, and even some kind of supply chain management courses, project management courses. The professionally qualified teachers can do justice, and they can bring the ground realities with examples, illustrations. They can do well. So balance between the academically qualified and professionally qualified happens in the good institution, and very strong industry relationship already there. But other tier 2, it is attempt has been made. Tier 3 is the major question, and there the large number of business schools are there. And probably in the new education policy, there are only going to be 3 kinds of institutions: Meru, multidisciplinary education and research university. Probably there, all the top institutions, those who are focusing on research, including IITs, are going to come. Second is a teaching university, traditional universities will come. Third, degree granting colleges, where the minimum strength has to be 3,000. Now, those who are the smaller one, those who are much smaller in 100,000 and all, they are all going to disappear in 15 years. The correction here is also, along with the NEP, there is also correction here. Good are going to stay and grow, and those who are not good, their days are not far away. And that is what going to happen in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, Sarika.
Yeah. So there is one more question.
No. You need to stop here, Sarika. I'll give you
fine.
Another 5-6 minutes, and you can come back with one more question, right? So we need to let Dr. Maitri be able to answer the question I left him with before the audience question came, which is a good question because I had it in my list as well. So that's good. So Dr. Maitri, can we go back to this? How are we going to develop the faculty for doing all this wonderful things that are happening?
Yeah, Ram, it is a great question, and it is the core of any education institution is the faculty. Heart of the education institution is the faculty, and as a part of NEP, the government of India has appointed this 9 task forces, and one of them was integration of higher education. And I was also part of that committee. Their integration of higher education includes technical education, where management and engineering, pharmacy, and even hotel management all will come. Second is a vocational education. Third is the teacher education. So these are the three are part of the integration of higher education, and their teacher education has been given the importance at highest order. It is not only for higher education, but teacher education right from primary to the higher education. But we were taking care of the higher education part. So their teacher education is going to be play important role to enhance the quality in higher education in India. So at different level, there are committees have been formed and teachers are going to be trained. Not only teachers means there is a leadership workshop and training programs for the vice chancellors. I think you may be happy to know that Ram, I did when I was IIM Trichy, I conducted 2 days leadership workshop for all the Tamil Nadu state vice chancellors in Rajbhavan, OT, under the title of Chancellor's Vision 2030.
Wow.
I did that because Tamil Nadu in gross enrollment ratio, it is already 48, and NEP says in 2035 you have to reach 50. But Tamil Nadu is already, 48, and the rest of the country average is 26.
Wow.
So there we kept the target. You should go for 76. You should not, look at the NEP 50. Tamil Nadu should be the leader and should lead. So that we did. And similarly, I also did a program for vice chancellors all over the country. University Grant Commission requested I did when I was the director of Trichy. And now also there is a plan for leadership workshop for the vice chancellors. And vice chancellors are those who are going to build the culture of NEP in the institutions. And similarly, there are programs for the directors of the engineering institutions and also deans of the engineering institutions. There is a program currently, the finance minister has in the last budget approved 500 crore rupees for the scheme called MERITA, Multidisciplinary Education and Research Improvement in Technical Education. It is called MERITE, MERITA program. And currently, there also government has appointed 7 special groups, and one group is effective governance. And you may be happy to know that I am part of that effective governance for the state level and university level, college level. What kind of governance should be there to implement NEP, and full autonomy should those who perform better, they will be given more autonomy, because autonomous institutions have proved themselves they are a premier institutions competing well at the global level. So that is how that kind of attempt has been made, and training right from faculty for implementation of NEP and also development of the new curriculum and also pedagogy level, because it is going to, and even evaluation, it is a rubric kind of evaluation. It is not a Stone Age. Current evaluation is a Stone Age one. It doesn't give anything. But rubric kind of evaluation is going to come. So at every level, teacher level and the administrators, deans and head of the departmental level, different training, and the principals, director, one level of training, and vice chancellors, other level of training. And you may be knowing that in NEP 2020, affiliated colleges are going to disappear. All have to get into any one of the 3 categories, or they may become a constituent college of the university. So that is how all the 4 levels there are going to be trainings, and that in that direction work is already going on.
So in this also you have explained this in detail, and what you seem very, very hopeful that things are in the right direction.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Maitre, over the last half an hour, you've given detailed and wonderful answers, which clear up so many doubts that we have in our mind, and also give us insights into what is happening in the country. And it's very, very hopeful, I must say. But now we have 3 or 4 minutes, and I want to squeeze in some questions and request you to give 2-minute or 2-sentence answers, not 2 minutes. 2-sentence answers. So first we'll go to Sarika. Sarika, you have your question ready, audience question. And we will request Dr. Maitre very unfairly for 2-sentence answers.
Sure, sure.
Yes, I have one question from probably a student. Wants to ask that how students can contribute by giving creative ideas in the college. What advice you would like to give them, because whatever they are learning are the majority of the part is theoretical. So how can they contribute and nurture the creativity in their mind?
Yeah, I think it is a great question. And most of the business school, there are centers of excellence, COE, centers of excellence. Centers of excellence are multidisciplinary centers, people expertise coming from different areas, and their students also contribute in the form of hackathon. Hackathons are conducted. Students will, maybe, problems are taken from the different sector of industry and given to the students, and students provide a innovative solution under the guidance of professors. So those kind of activities are already there in some of the business school, and probably All India Council for Technical Education conducts big way hackathon. They collect the problem for all the ministries, and those problems are given to all NITs and engineering college students and management students, and different reasons they are conducted, and students contribute, and awards are given to the best suggestions, ideas given. And apart from that, students have clubs and committees in business school, and through clubs and committees, their ideas are implemented. Probably we have idea club, students generate the idea and the best ideas are implemented. So those kind of things already there, and there is an opportunity through NEP also.
Thank you. As ever, you give very definitive and comprehensive answers to questions, and we really appreciate it, because the way you answer it respects the question asker, and is informative and educative for the whole audience. Thank you very much. So I must now rush into the last question, and this is something I think up your alley, because I know that you have mentioned before that in the world of today, younger people are taking the lead, and we old guys have to follow them, right? So how do you see this influence the way India makes progress in the coming decades? I'm sorry, it's a big question, but can you give a short answer?
Yeah, I'll answer. I think, Ram, you are the, a stalwart and quality guru. You see that top 20 companies in the world, they born less than 20 years before, means their age is less than 20 years. So younger ones are leading the older one. And today in the corporate world, 5 generations are working together. Those who born before 1946 to those who born 46 to 64 and 64 to 80 and 80 to 2000 and 2000 and above till. So these 5 generations are working together. But the younger generation, Y and Z means after 2000. So this after 80 is a Y. So these generations, they are a different kind of generation. This generation is basically, they think independently. They know many things, but they know surfacely. They don't know much deep, but they have a overall holistic perspective. And that is where the younger ones, and today, you know that our generation, Ram, your and my generation, even Rajkumar, we are listening to our parents and we are listening to our kids. So this is our generation. But next generation onward, it is very clear that they are going to listen to the younger generation. That is how there is a reverse mentoring. In India, big way in the companies for getting the innovative idea, creativity, reverse mentoring happens, they get the suggestion. So this is going to help big way, but the younger, we should not neglect that senior people, the learning curve and experience. Balancing these two is going to be the golden mean, and that is going to give the best result. We should focus, we should not neglect the other part. Both should be taken in a golden way, and that should be used. That is what my answer.
Yeah, thank you again. I can relate to this because I obey my children.
Ram sir.
Yeah.
Yes. Ram sir, I know you said it's last question, but can we give the chance who are actually participating in the conference one to ask one question, one last
Now,
question, Dr. Mehta?
the authorities have to say this because we have 2 minutes left in this session. So
You
are
can
we
take
allowed
one
to
question,
extend
sir.
the time?
You can take one question.
One question from audience directly.
Okay, you go ahead.
Yes, sir.
We'll make
Sir,
it very,
Dr.
very
Maitri,
short. Yeah.
thank you, sir.
I don't
Your
want to
discussion
exceed
is
time too much.
really giving hopes from the top policy commission to
Dr. Rajkumar,
the student who
please
sit in the
announce.
class. But always there'll be, darkness under the light. I have been last 6 years in multiple institutions. The assessment where come from the accreditation boards, there is the very lot of loopholes. So they are very lenient in the assessment actually. We had a very good policies even earlier also, but when they come for the assessment, there will be a lot of loopholes. Everybody will get accreditation, but when you really go and see, there will be a lot of problems. How are you ensuring that gap? How you are throwing light for that darkness?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question, Dr. Maitri.
Thank you very much. This is accreditation of institutions you are talking about. So accreditation of institutions, I tell you, there is under the NEP, there are 4 standards, and one is a National Accreditation Council, NAC has been formed, and I actually graded autonomy. I'm that part is also I am dealing. So what we are going to do is there are going to be certified accreditators. So their variation should not be more than 3 to 5%. So that whatever the question you are raising, that has been taken care, and there should not be too much variation, leniency. Light and tight word has been used in NEP. Accreditation point of view, it is going to be, governance is going to be very light, but it is tight. So that is where under the governance, this accreditation is basically taken very seriously. And certified people are only going to go as an examiner for accreditation, not anybody by the designation. They will go, and this problem will automatically short it out.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maitri. I must say that this has been a huge educational experience. You not only talked about management education, and the position of quality in it, but you've talked about the whole of education, and you've talked about the radical changes that are already on the way, and you have given us a very good picture of what is happening, and it makes us really happy that all this is going to happen, and it's going to change the face of India if it really succeeds. And really congratulations to you for playing such a stellar role in this. Thank you very much. Now I hand this over to Dr. Rajkumar for his summing up.
Thank you, Ram. Thanks a lot. Very great questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was a very enlightening session, and you gave us a lot of insight on how NEP 2020 is going to be and how it is going to change, overall the whole education system. And I just picked a few phrases from your discussion. Involve me, I learn. Definitely, it's a wonderful one. I think everyone should take. And you also mentioned about industry and academia getting stronger. I think that is again another key thing. And the last one, what you talked about is the reverse mentoring is absolutely true. And I agree that that's what should take us forward. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this session. Thank you, Mr. Ramanathan, for anchoring this nicely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.